Hello, quick update before the video starts. This video I filmed a few weeks ago and I was going to post it after my original video that I did on the 1-star comments for my favorite books, but I didn't, and I wasn't going to post it at all, but I'm just so crazy busy. Let me just show you the chaos of my room right now because I'm packing. There's boxes over there. Everything is chaos. Because of that, I don't have time to make a video, so I decided to just put out an old video. That's why all my setup's still up, even though currently when you watch that video, I will be in my new apartment with my new husband because yes, I got married. So thank you everyone for all your well wishes and congratulations. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in next week's video or Wednesday's video. I will be in my new apartment, even though it may be still chaos because it would take a while to organize it. I've never organized an entire apartment before, so this should be fun. Okay, bye. Hi, I'm Anne. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. So last week I did a fun video where I looked at 1-star reviews for my favorite classics. However, I have very few classics that I actually dislike, so I wanted to do the reverse of it, where I looked at my 1-star classics and looked at 5-star reviews for them. But I realized that's not that much fun. So I decided to do modern books. A lot of people have done this before, so I'm definitely not the newest person to do it. However, I wanted some light video as of when you're watching this. It's almost my wedding, so I kind of just wanted to have a light video that I could sit down. It could have me laughing and give me endorphins. So we're actually going to start with a book that is probably not kosher to hate, but I hated it so much. In fact, I kept reading the series thinking it would get better, but it didn't. It just got worse and worse progressively, and that is The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. Yes, I know so many people love the series, and Anne Hathaway starred in a movie. I actually enjoy both movies they came out with for The Princess Diaries, even though the second movie was not at all what happened in the book series. But yeah, so I hate this series, but I'm curious to read some of like the 5-star reviews of people who absolutely loved it, because maybe I was missing something. Maybe there was like some depth to it. Honestly, this book was a complete surprise for me. I had never read it. I know, and I loved it. It's so smart and clever and totally kick-butt feminist. How is it feminist? Like for half the book, okay, her grandmother, if you've seen the movie, her grandmother is a she's very not nice in the book. In the movie, she's great. Like Julie Andrews plays it. I love Julie Andrews and I really loved her. But in the books, she is a horrible human being. Same thing, and I'm sorry. Like, let's face it, the Mia Thermopolis from the book is a lot more whiny. She's constantly pursuing boys and constantly obsessing about boys. I'm sorry, that does not strike me as feminist. I'm sorry. Like, did I miss the feminist twist? No, because not feminist. This book was so ahead of its time when it was published. I don't know, but I would guess there was a backlash. I can't wait to pick up the next one, and I definitely recommend the audiobooks as well. That is true. I remember getting the audiobooks from the library when I was younger, and the narrator does a really good job. So while I still hate this book, the narrator of the audiobooks is very good. Right, so the audiobook is narrated by Anne Hathaway. That's probably why it was so good. I didn't even remember that. I've read this 3 times on audiobook. Yes, I just bought the box set so I can read them all at once. No, I don't regret it. Yes, I'm reading them starting now. So I love she keeps giving updates, and this is all within like 2020 or 2021. So I think it is clear that I love this book. I'm obsessed with the main character and the story that unfolds. I love the movie and adore the audiobook. This is such a great royal contemporary series and is my comfort book. I don't review this book because it would detract from my experience, but I have listened to the audiobook a total of 4 times in less than a year. You guys, I read this when I was 6. What? I was just learning to read at 6. This person is impressive. I can't help but love this book. I just can't. Well, I can't help but hate this book. I just can't. Such a delightful read. What? Mia is both witty and relatable. Because we're all princesses, right? She's not relatable at all. Maybe if you're like a really whiny girl that just like thinks about boys all the time, I wasn't like that when I was younger. Maybe I'm not the norm. Maybe I didn't obsess with boys enough, and that's why I'm just like, I didn't get it because it wasn't relatable to me. Honestly, this book is so cute. I forgot how much I enjoyed it. Cabot accurately captures what it's like to be a teenage girl in the best and worst ways. She's a princess. I don't think she's a typical teenage girl. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there, okay? Mia is always like, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. And then when she finds out she's a princess, she acts like that's the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone. That's true. She is constantly complaining about everything in her life. And I'm sorry, like, you could have it so much worse. Your mother could be broke. You could be living out of a car. You could be homeless. You could have so many horrible things happen to you, and she complains about everything. It's like first world problems. I'm ranting about this book so much. Oh my gosh. But a lot of these people I'm finding did actually read this when they were younger, and maybe that's why they like it so much. It's because it is nostalgic to them. And I agree, like, I blindly like things a little bit more that I liked when I was younger just because of that nostalgic factor. All right. Let's go to the next book. This one was another one that I hated and so many people loved. The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashares. This book is about 4 girls and their summer, and they exchange jeans, which, I'm sorry, the movie, they made a movie, and I watched the movie. It's also horrible, in my opinion. But the movie had them be in various heights, and yet they can still all wear the same jeans. Like, if they were near the same height. But I'm sorry, like, if you get a tall girl, I'm just curious. So Alexis Bledel is 5'7". Amber is 5'7". America Ferrera is 5'1". Okay, yeah. Blake Lively is 5'10". Okay, so you have a 5'1" girl wearing the same pants as a 5'10" girl. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. If you know anything about pants, like, if you're tall, it's very hard to find jeans that are long enough for you. And if you are short, like 5'1", I'm 5'10", so I'm taller. But like, if you're 5'1", it's incredibly hard to find pants that are short enough for you. Though at least if you're short, you can like hem them relatively easy. Whereas if you're tall, like, it's not like you can add extra fabric. So let me just say, I never thought it reasonable that all these girls could wear the same pants. I'm sorry, I just don't. But let's get into the like amazing 5-star reviews. A sparkling breath of fresh air. This book captures the spirit of friendship in the most charming and sauciest manner possible. The book is a far cry from the regular breed of YA novels, which seems to dwell on fixed notions that young girls basically fall into 2 main groups. One, the hatefully pretty, perpetually scheming prom queens with their nastier than week-old male cliques. And at the other end of the rainbow, the brave underdog. Not much to look at, the general do-gooder, the faithful confidant, and to nicely rounded off, more often than not, armed with an IQ formidable enough to gain entry in Mensa. Yeah, I will agree with that statement that it definitely does break like those very opposite sides, but I feel like a lot of literature during that time was like few books that I read. Maybe the movies were worse on that. I agree with movies, but not books as much. Whoa, if you are a teen girl looking for some love stories between friends and their super hot boyfriends, well, look no further than the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series. This book is about the 4 best friends when they split up for the summer. Pants bind together. The pants witness all breakups and get-togethers and are often shipped with hysterical letters that will make you laugh out loud. I think my favorite is the love-hate relationship between Eric and Bridget, but I can't tell you. So read to find out. The idea of like pants just sitting there witnessing everything you experience, it's a little creepy. I was almost ashamed to love this book because I'm really not for chick lit. Give me gothic or intrigue any day. I agree. However, I think this series is really exceptional. The experiences cannot be typified. Although there is romance, I appreciate how it does not fall into crush agony happily ever after Triptych. I don't know this word at all. Triptych. You learn new words every single day. Triptych. That is common to most chick lit novels. So, moving on to the next one. Isn't this fun? This is actually a good one because this is another like very popular one. Now, I enjoyed the first book of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars, even though it has its imperfections, and I never really liked Katniss that much. It was a well-written book, and it was really interesting. The second one was almost the same as the first one, to be honest, just with slightly different characters. But the third one took a very different turn because it takes place mostly outside of the Hunger Games themselves. But it was really bad. I really disliked it. Katniss is just horrible throughout this entire book. And Peeta and Gale, oh my gosh, they're so horrible. You guys can disagree with me, that's fine. But I want to read some 5-star reviews for this book. This is the third book of the Hunger Game series. What were you doing when you were 16? Checking out your boobs each morning to see if the boob fairy had paid you a visit? Sneaking out of the house to park down the street where you and your 6 friends could share a single can of beer and pretend you're drunk? Making out homework, fighting with your parents, watching scary movies? Katniss is 16 years old and she's been in 2 Hunger Games. Fighting against 20-odd opponents to the death. Then she becomes the symbol of the rebel leadership and helps overthrow an evil empire before she can legally drink. I mean, we don't know. In this world, I'm not sure if there's like a legal drinking age. So I suppose it's really ridiculous of anyone to expect her capable of then going on to be president of this new world after everything she's been through. Nobody would be evil enough to force that on her, considering her fragile mental state. Except me. Maleficent and I go way back. I love the review better than the book. That's really sad. Oh, and it just keeps going on. I'm not going to read all of this, but these reviews are great. There is no District 12. Was this written before the book came out? Okay, I hate that Goodreads allows people who have obviously never read the book to write reviews and give their opinions, especially if it's book by an author you really like or dislike. You shouldn't just put a comment saying, oh, yes, I can't wait for this to come out. Well, yeah, but that's not a review, okay? This is for Goodreads reviews. I dislike that. I'm emotional right now. This book had ruined me just as much the second time around. In fact, I think it hurt even more. I feel like I garnered a greater understanding of Katniss's motives and her final all-consuming sadness. I also understood the ending a lot better, and her decisions for the life she chose felt more real than the ending my younger self had anticipated during my first read of this. This series will remain forever close to my heart. Again, I feel like this is the whole nostalgia speaking. Moving on with that one. Since I did talk about Pride and Prejudice in my previous video of books I love for 1 star, I should look at a Pride and Prejudice retelling that I absolutely hated. And the first one that came to mind is The Wrong Mr. Darcy by these 2 authors. So it's a remake, which usually I am much more open when it comes to remakes of Pride and Prejudice, especially because even if it's bad, I will probably like it. They made a horrible movie in the early 2000s called Pride and Prejudice, the Latter Day Comedy, and it is absolutely atrocious if I actually look at it meaningfully, but I still enjoy it. So I went to this thinking it would be nice and fun, and it follows this basketball star who is the Darcy equivalent, and this sports writer who runs into him, and of course they hate each other first and then they like each other, and she's the Lizzie equivalent. I really hated this book. I really did. It's kind of a mess. Yeah, as I said, here let's read my review. This book is kind of a mess. First of all, it's one of those books which wants to use a popular classic to generate sales, but not actually put in meaningful connections to the classic besides quirky quotes at the beginning of each chapter. Second, there is way too much going on for me to care about anything, and because of that, everything feels so shallow. The worst part is that there were interesting themes mentioned in this book, that were just swept under the rug and ignored. The romance was painful to read about as it went from 1 to 100, but never in between. Everything interesting that could have made this book interesting. It felt like a backdrop to nothing. Just nothing. And I did write a full review for that, but that was just like my first introduction. So, and it does look like quite a few people agree with me. So I'm curious about like the 5-star reviews, because most of the ratings are actually between 3 stars and 2 stars, which is quite low, surprisingly. At least they admit it. Although there are some wonderful quotes from Pride and Prejudice that introduce each chapter perfectly, our hero is not Mr. Darcy from Austen's novel. He is some of the personality, but is a different character. Equally romantic, though, our heroine is not Elizabeth either. She is a wonderfully developed character who has to find her way without losing her compass. Excellent book. We'll agree to disagree. Love this book. I have read many retellings of Pride and Prejudice, and this one is outstanding. Disagree. The author puts the story in the present while keeping the spirit of the book. Disagree. I'm honestly surprised it doesn't have higher ratings. I highly recommend this book. Love, basketball, mystery, suspense, wives and girlfriends, a storm, and more. This is not your Mama's Pride and Prejudice variation, and I'm all for it. Multicultural characters give this novel depth and an edginess not found in the usual Austen-esque style books. I will say, here's the thing. I love multicultural books. I mean, obviously, I'm interested in Asian history. I'm interested in African history and South American history. So obviously, I love multicultural books. However, I feel like simply because a book is multicultural does not make it necessarily inherently good. Like, you can have a very bad multicultural book just as well as you can have a very good, like, very not multicultural book. Like, it can just be like one culture book. Like Pride and Prejudice is very much a British novel, and it features all white British, mostly middle class characters, or like more wealthy class, like with Darcy. Like, it's not much variation, but it's still a great book in my opinion. But I definitely don't think just because a book is multicultural that it's necessarily good, even though there are so many multicultural books that are amazing that are out there. So it'd be interesting. I'm curious for your opinion about that. So a lot of people are saying that this one was good because it is much more modern and it brings Jane Austen into the modern era, which I don't actually disagree with, because making Austen more relatable to a modern reader is a good thing. But I also think that doesn't just make it good. Just because it's more modern doesn't mean it's a good modern. We're only going to look at those 4 books, but I'm curious if you read any of these books, if you disagree with me, or if you agree with me. Are these any books that you think are widely liked, that you really hated? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I post every Saturday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a great week. Bye!